due to the pandemic, we are unable to have large gatherings. So as an alternative, we're going to try to bring apprenticeship coordinators on for the entire spring semester. I think we're going to do 14 programs over the next couple months on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So this is our first program today. And today we're going to be talking about the plumbers construction trade. And my guest today is going to be Bill Virgin. Bill is the apprenticeship coordinator for Plumbers Local 210. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to go ahead and moderate some questions. And for you in the audience as a participant, if you have any questions, we just ask that you put it in the chat box. I will be keeping an eye on that chat box. And when I see the questions appear, I will try to incorporate them into this presentation. So I think we're just going to go ahead and get started and start talking about the plumbers. As you can see on the opening screen, there's information, contact information for Bill, who we're going to be talking to right now, has his email address and their website address. But before we begin, I also want to thank the Center of Workforce Innovations, the Northwest Indiana Workforce Board, and the plumbers for helping us put this together today. So thank you very much. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen sharing so you can see Bill. Bill, thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
So Bill, I want to first start off this conversation by asking you a little bit about your background. You know, how did you get into the plumbers union? And you know, I mean, and how long have you been a plumber? And how did you get to your present position as the apprenticeship coordinator?
Well, I'll try to make this, you know, the condensed version, but I graduated from high school in 1999. Like a lot of people, right after high school, I went to college, went to DePaul University in Chicago, went there for 5 years, got my bachelor's degree. After college, then was like everybody else, going out looking for work. Kind of jumped around from job to job, but really didn't find my calling. So my brother-in-law, who was already in the trades, had suggested for me to maybe go ahead and apply at 210. Went in, applied, got into the program, started off in a residential shop, and that was back in 2007. So we were doing light commercial work and residential, a little bit of service work. Started there for about 1.5 years, and then in about 2008, the economy kind of took a downturn, as everybody maybe can remember. You know, so I jumped around from a couple different shops, then ended up with a really good sized shop in my second year of my apprenticeship. Was there with that company for 11 years. Had worked there from as a second year all the way as a journeyman, and then became a foreman for them, and was there until I got this position. So before I got this position, I was also an instructor here, a night instructor for 6 years before I got the coordinator's job.
Well, thanks for that background. Now, you had mentioned a couple things in your little introduction there. You had mentioned residential, commercial. You know, a lot of people might not be that familiar with what a plumber does. You know, I think there's just misconception that, you know, the only thing that a plumber does is, you know, come out and, you know, unclogs a toilet when, you know, when it's backed up. But I mean, you guys do so much more than that. Can you talk a little bit about your trade, the plumbers, and what kind of work that you do on a daily basis?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, like you were saying, Kevin, that's what a lot of people think is that, you know, repairs, residential repairs, you know, fixing toilets, faucets, things like that they see every day. But I mean, that is a big aspect of our job. But another part of that is also new construction. So I like to think that we're pretty special in the fact that it's usually us and the electricians that are one of the few trades that are there on the job from the very beginning of construction all the way to the end of construction. So before they pour concrete for the floor, the plumber is there to put the sanitary pipes and the water pipes underneath the ground before they do the pour. And then as they start putting in, stud construction, stuff like that, we're there putting in the pipes inside the walls and then the suspended piping above the ceilings, things like that. And then we're there to trim the job out and test it and make sure the system is up and going. And as far as my personal, what I had mainly done when I was out in the field was new construction, and especially concentration in the medical field. So I worked on a lot of new construction with medical buildings, hospitals, cancer centers, also a lot of remodels inside of existing hospitals. So that was mainly what I was on. I was on quite a few bigger projects within the region. The last good sized job I was on was the new hospital in Michigan City. I was out there for 2 years. Earlier in my career, when they built the tower for the Blue Chip Casino, I was out there for a while. And then many of the other medical buildings around the region, that's what I did. So like I said, we were out there from the very get-go doing the underground portion of the job. And then I was there to all the way to the very end when they would trim. So most of my jobs, I was on there for anywhere between 10 months at a time to 2 years at a time. I'm not going to say that I never did any kind of service work where you go in, ride sewers, do small repairs in houses. I did some of that when I first started off, but my career kind of just went that way, and I became a foreman in that kind of in those kind of conditions. So the nice thing about plumbers is that you really can find your position on what kind of work you like to do. I mean, some guys enjoy doing bigger new construction projects. Other guys like to do residential projects where you're going in and you're doing the piping in houses, new subdivisions, things like that. Two different animals, really. I mean, the big projects, you'll have a crew of 25 guys out there, and you also will have possibly anywhere from 75 to 150 individuals on that project. Unlike residential, it's usually just you. So some people really like just being by themselves, working by themselves every day in and day out. Other people like, working in an environment where it's a bigger project. Also, too, our individuals that do service work, it's interesting work. You're kind of like your own salesperson. So you go out, you take calls from your contractor, you go to customers' houses, you fix the repairs. You also go out, look for any other problems that might be in a house that, maybe need updated or need fixed, things like that. And really that's about your day. You go from, phone call to phone call to phone call. You're also, you usually do calls, where you might be possibly working weekends, things like that, holidays. It just kind of suits other people's lifestyle a little bit better where they like that type. I will say this, people that do work in the service industry, they tend to work a little bit more often. You don't see those downturns, when the economy may take a slump or something like that, because there's people always need repairs done in their house. I mean, plumbing is just one of those things. It's a mechanical system. You're going to have problems here and there. So if it be a water heater needs to be changed out, a toilet needs to be rotted, a faucet needs to be repaired, those phone calls are always going to be out there, and those jobs are going to be available. So just two or three different different aspects of our trade.
So during your description, you talked a lot about a lot of your work is above ground. Do you guys do any work below ground? Like, before a building gets in, you have pipes that run underground to the municipal sewer or water coming in from, municipal sources. Do you guys do that work as well?
Yeah, so we do. We have some contractors who do what Kevin was talking about, which is considered site work. So site work is where you're running utilities as far as sewers and water mains, things like that, for towns, or also on bigger projects where you're running it on site. Like I said, we do have contractors that do that type of work. Typically what happens is, the plumber, we stub out 5-10 feet outside the building. Either another site company picks that up and runs with it, or we tie on and run it into the building. And as I was saying before, the underground piping, especially you take, a medical building or things like that, slab on grade kind of construction, that's where a lot of our piping goes in at. So the interesting thing about plumbing is you kind of need to know a little bit about everybody's trade, and you really need to be, somebody that you got to know how to read a blueprint. So you're not just going out there slamming pipe in, things like that. You've got to have your head on your shoulders and know what you're doing. So how that system actually gets put in, pipes go in walls, or they got to be coordinated with where walls are at. So where a toilet is or where a sink is. So you have to get in the blueprint before anything is out there. So there's no floor out there. You're just out in a field of dirt, and you've got to lay out a whole system, and you've got to lay out where every single wall in that building goes, just so you can install your plumbing system. So, you've got to be good with math. You got to be good with organization. You got to be good with knowing how to manage people, material, things like that. So there's a lot that goes into it that people probably don't think about, that is really a huge thing. So, I mean, you're talking about, if you're doing an underground for a hospital, that could be $1 million underground. So you're talking about $1 million installation before concrete even gets poured or a wall gets put in. And that is a very expensive mistake if you do not know what you're doing and you put those pipes in the wrong locations, and then you're jackhammering cement to move those pipes where they need to be. So very important job.
Okay, well, thanks for the background on that. That's very interesting. I didn't know a lot of what you did there, but I kind of want to switch directions a little bit here and talk about the apprenticeship program. I think today is the first day that you're accepting applications for this year.
We're actually doing it next week, Kevin.
Next week. Okay,
Yeah,
so
next
starting
week.
next week, you're going to be taking applications, and that application period lasts for what, a month?
It will be all the way to the end of January.
Okay, so going into the apprenticeship program, can you talk a little bit about how an apprenticeship program is designed and structured, and what can an apprentice expect, starting on day one when they come into your facility? What are they going to be doing?
Gotcha. So to talk about plumbing a little bit, it's interesting that most of the individuals that apply here do not have any kind of history with doing any kind of plumbing. So to do plumbing in the state of Indiana, you need to have a license. So we don't expect any of our applicants that come in to really have an extensive background in this type of work. So it's kind of an even playing field for all our applicants that come in. Now, the way that our apprenticeship program is set up, me being an apprentice coordinator, I'm kind of the principal of the school. So I oversee all the apprentices licensing, the instructors' classes, the curriculum, things like that. I also deal with everything with the Department of Labor to make sure that all your paperwork and your tracking is in accords with the Department of Labor. And once we get everything signed up, say we got an applicant that gets signed up, I get you going in with the Department of Labor, all your licensing, and you're ready to go. You start school. The way that the apprenticeship is designed is that you come in, you start work. You're not expected to know much. So the journey persons that you work with out in the field, they've got you 90% of the time. So that is where you're getting most of your hands-on learning, is with the individuals that you're working with day by day. And the nice thing is that each individual that you're working with has been through the exact same program. So they all know that, hey, listen, I've got this new person that's in here. They don't know anything. I have to build them up. I'm giving them an education every single day. Now, the 10% of the other time is you're going to be down here at school. While you're here at school, We go over things like code. We go over things like regulations. We go over things like math. We go over safety. Safety is a big thing. So all the things that we're kind of adding on with everything that you're getting out in the field, and any of those little missed areas that you're not catching on, we're trying to supply that missed information here. And like we were talking before, since each individual's background is a little bit different, I might have a person that's doing residential, I might have an apprentice that's doing service, and I might have an apprentice doing commercial. So trying certain systems, some of them individuals are not going to be, experiencing that out in the field. Now we try to move those people around so they're getting that out in the field, but sometimes that doesn't always happen. So we're here to then kind of catch them up with anything that they might be not getting out in the field. So our apprenticeship is 90% out in the field. You're getting your education. You're also you're earning a paycheck as you go, and you're going to be down here 10% of the time. So our first year apprentices, like Kevin was saying, our applications are in January, March, we do interviews. Then we start accepting apprentices come around about April. You get accepted, you go out to work right in April, you go and work for one of our contractors. We don't start school until August. So really you get 4 or 5 months of on the field learning before we even start school time here. Now that's as a first year. Now, once class starts in August, you will come down here every day on Mondays. You do not get paid for schooling, so you don't get paid for that Monday, and then you work Tuesday through Friday with work being available. You do that for a year. As far as our standards are concerned, you have to have 1,700 working hours a year. You need to have an 80% on your grades in order to then advance to your next year in school. So once you get your 1,700 hours, the school year is over with. That happens in June. You get your advancement. Then you become officially a second year apprentice. You get a pay and raise. I believe ours are usually about $4 to $5 an hour bump ups every year. So we start our individuals off at about 15 bucks an hour right now. When you top out and become a journey person right now, a journey person is making $42 an hour. That's not any fringe benefits, any things like that. So like I was saying, a second year, you advance to second year, you get a pay bump. You also get another benefits added on to that. And then same thing, repeat over again. So once you start second year, you get your 1,700 working hours for your second year in the program. You get an 80% passing. You move on to third year, so on and so forth. It just keeps building until your fifth year. And then you go and take your licensing test. You officially have a journey person's license, and then you top out from the program, and then you become a journeyman. The other part of that is that the school and the local are kind of two separate entities that are kind of the same thing. So while you are an apprentice here, you're actually indentured to the JATC of 210, but you're also a member of Local 210. Once you get done with all of your hours, your on-job training hours, and all of your curriculum, you then advance, like I said, to a journey person, and then you are not indentured to the local or the JATC anymore. You move on to the local. I hope that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. I'm going to go to a question. I got a question from Barb Biernat. She is the building trades instructor over at the Porter County Career Center. And she wants to know, can current seniors apply, or do they have to wait until after graduation to apply for the program?
No, they can go ahead and apply. The only stipulation with that is they can be you have to be 18 to be an official apprentice here. So you can apply while you're 17 years old. We just can't get you out to work until you have graduated, obviously, and you turn 18 years old. It's just the licensing, the Indiana state licensing, you have to be 18 to actually hold an apprentice license. So yes, individuals can come and apply. They can come interview in March, and then they'll be available to come to work as they, turn 18 or graduate from high school.
So what is required to get that license? What is an individual, or what do you as the apprenticeship coordinator need to do to help them get that license? Do they get the license before they even start the apprenticeship program?
So some of the licensing has changed. It always had been, you had to have the licensing to go out to work. They made a change in 2019 where an individual can work without a license as long as they were working with a licensed person up to a year. So that kind of gave us a little bit of wiggle room. We haven't really used that too much, but that is available. But the licensing, so we have to fill out an application. We send it downstate. It goes in front of the Plumbing Commission. That's it's a group, it's a committee of 5 individuals that go over all the applications and all the licensings throughout the state. They also set up the Indiana code and kind of supervise the code books. So that application goes downstate. The Plumbing Commission looks at it. That is one reason why we do background screenings at the local. Reason being is you can be denied a plumbing license if you have a bit of a sketchy background. So the reason why we do background checks before we do, interviews and things like that, or before we even send out applications for licensing downstate, is because it really doesn't do you any good if they don't give you a license. You can't be an apprentice here at 210. So that's really the only stipulation. We just send it down. I have to sign off on it. So in order to get a license, you have to be signed up with an official plumbing school within the state. And we are official school with the state. So I have to have my signature and our school code attached with it, all your background information, and then it gets sent downstate and then reviewed by.
Now, does that license have to be renewed annually, or is it once you have the license?
So an apprentices have to get license renewal every 2 years. Once you become a journey person, it's 2 years as well, but it's staggered in different years. So
Okay,
the
great.
nice thing too, Kevin, I'm sorry to interrupt you, man, but
that's all right.
I do like to inform everybody about that, is that, so in order to do plumbing, like I was saying before, you have to have an Indiana state plumbing license. The other thing is, if you want to be a contractor, you also have to have an Indiana state contractor's license. So with our individuals that graduate and they go and take their licensing test, I encourage them, if they have an inkling ever to open up their own business, to go ahead and get their contractor's license. You have to get your contractor's license in order to even open the doors to have a plumbing business. And here at 210, we really encourage our individuals to start their own companies. We need our guys to go out, start their own things so they can hire more of our guys, so on and so forth. So we really are very pro-business here. We like to see our members go out and start their thing. So we really encourage our guys to start their contracting businesses.
Great information, Bill. I'm going to go to another question from our participants. This is a pretty good question, and I get it quite a bit, but I'm going to ask it of you. What can a high schooler do today to prepare to get into the apprenticeship program for the plumbers?
Gotcha. And like I was saying, is that, you have to have a license to do the type of work. So we don't expect our applicants to have a long history of doing plumbing. So what we look for, especially high school students, is we look for individuals that have a strong background in math. We also look for an individual that has a strong background in any kind of shop classes that high schools offer, or any extra organizations that offer some type of hands-on, whether it be welding, I think some schools offer like a construction, background kind of class, something like that, where it just introduces individuals to, measurements, things like that. And like I said, any kind of shop class. So, we used to do basically like kind of a skills test before we did interviews. So, you would go and take a test and we would see how your mechanical abilities were, how they were. Now we just go through an interview process. So the interview process, our JATC committee, they like to ask the individuals, just simple questions like, what do you like to do for fun? And if we've got individuals that are, into, hey, I like messing with, trucks. I like to, mechanically work on things. I like to build stuff, this, that, and the other. When we've got individuals that understand how to have a basic understanding on how power tools work and how a tape measure reads, I know that that sounds really simplistic, but we get apprentices in here as first years that have difficulties even knowing how to add and subtract fractions. So that background in math, if you've got a decent background in math, that just gives you a step up. It makes the transition into actually moving forward and then doing simple installations much better if you already know how, hey, I know how to read a tape measure. I know how to add and subtract. I know how to multiply and things like that. I know that sounds silly, but a lot of individuals have forgotten that because they haven't taught it since junior high. So my word of advice for anybody that's in high school, please take as many kind of shop classes as you could take, hands-on welding, anything like that, and, you know, kind of tune up on your math skills.
So you kind of talked a little bit about the interview process. Let's talk a little bit about the selection process. You know, how do you determine, you know, the class size every year? You know, how big is your class going to be? And I guess as an applicant, I would want to know, you know, how many people am I competing against? How many people do you have apply versus how many people do you take into the program annually?
Yeah, and really, that would be something I would like to know too, Kevin, because the way that we do it is, so we go through an interview process, right? And then the JATC committee ranks all the applicants. So let's say, you know, your interview went really well. They really liked all your answers. You got a ranking of number 1. That doesn't mean that you're an apprentice here at 210 yet. What we need to happen after that is we need a contractor to call and ask for a first-year apprentice. So once we get a contractor call and say, hey, I need a new guy, we call our first ranked applicant in. We fill out his paperwork or his or hers paperwork. We get the licensing thing, the Department of Labor, all that paperwork done and sent off. And then you're an official apprentice here at 210. So
this is before school.
So we stopped taking apprentices in August, late August when we start school. That's the cutoff. So
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so we got end of March all the way to end of August is when we're taking pulling from our rank list and sending them out to work.
So some trades, they have school year round, you know, every week. Yours is more focused on in the starting in August.
Ours is more set up like a high school or college. So we go 2 semesters, we got semester system, and we go from August, first semester is end of August to mid-January, and then mid-January to the end of May is second semester. And then we have summers off. And to go back to the ranked process is, like I was saying, is that first person goes out, the second ranked person is then number 1, so on and so forth. So as many people as get pulled, we've got to, so if we have a really great year where there's a lot of work out there, you know, we may pull 20 apprentices. I think the most we've ever pulled was possibly 25 per year. Unfortunately, like last year, you know, we thought we had an idea that we were going to pull 20 apprentices last year because work looked really abundant and it looked like it wasn't going to slow down. Everything with the pandemic, we ended up only pulling 10 individuals.
So I got another question, and I think you kind of already answered it. What is the application process as a 17-year-old? You could apply, like you said, and I'm just going to reiterate what you said. You could apply when you're 17 years old, but you have to be 18 before you could actually start the program.
Before you can start the work.
Yeah. So I hope that answers your question, Jake. You were talking a little bit about the selection process and the interview in particular. You know, how should one come to the interview and what should they be prepared for? I mean, I know you know, the interviewers want to see that you have like some manual dexterity and maybe some mechanical know-how, but can you describe like the scene? Like, I'm an apprentice, I'm walking in, how many people am I going to be interviewing with?
Sure.
And what should I wear?
Okay. So yeah, good question. No, that's a very good question. So it's going to be our JATC committee who oversees the program is going to be the ones that are conducting the interviews. So that's 3 contractors and then 3 members from labor that are currently working out in the field. So they're the ones that conduct the interview. It's kind of, it's intimidating. You're sitting in front and center of 6 individuals and they're asking you questions, and they expect a good response on each one of their questions. Um, what they're looking for, I like to tell this story, Kevin, because it kind of help, it kind of involves me and you. So back in 2019, we had a high schooler. I believe he was 18, but he was still in school. He had went to the hands-on job fair. He had met up with us while we were doing a soldering project. He talked to the former coordinator. So he fills out an application. He comes in for the interview. Real confident kid. You don't see that at 18, but real confident, was making eye contact with all the committee members. He was answering all the questions good. He then went on and one of the questions was, what do you think? Why do you think you would make a good plumber? Why do you want to be a plumber? And he went on to tell him that I went to the hands-on job fair. I really like the soldering. I went out, I bought copper tubing, I bought couplings, I bought a torch, I bought solder, I bought flux, and I practiced soldering for 3 months. And I really enjoyed it. And I tried to get as good as I could with it. And I really wanted to become a plumber. And that's why I'm here today. And
How do you turn that guy down?
how do you turn that guy down? How do you turn that guy down? You got an 18-year-old guy who really knows what he wants to do and has already done a little bit of work to show that he wants to be involved. So, the committee is looking for a confident individual who knows what they want, who's done a little bit of research in what kind of work they're doing. I mean, we don't really want to see an individual come in and go, well, I heard plumbers made a lot of money and that's why I'm here. We want an individual that said, hey, I've done a little research. I kind of understand how things are going on. This is really what I want to do. I've maybe talked to some other plumbers or people that were in the trades, and this is where I really want to see my career go. That's the kind of individuals they're looking for. So, and also to your one other question, please dress like it's a job interview, because it is a job interview. So dress accordingly.
I'm going to go ahead and pull up your website right now, because I know there's a lot of important information on there. Can you see the screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you go to, you could Google Plumbers Local 210, or just go plu210.org, click on the apprenticeship school, which is where I'm at right now. And toward the bottom here, it's how to apply. And this is updated for this year, 2021 application packet and how to apply. I'm going to go ahead and pull up how to apply PDF. And can you just kind of walk us through these steps?
Sure. So first things first, we do have an application fee. That $25 just basically pays for the background screening that we need for the licensing. So you can be, like it said, 17 years old to apply, 18 years old to begin the program. You need to have a high school diploma or a GED. Like I said, the background screening will be performed. You need to have a valid driver's license. The reason why you need to have a valid driver's license and standard insurance is usually about 3rd year, 4th year, you might be out on your own, and the company that you work for will give you a van and you'll be driving around in that company's truck. The other part of that is too, as a 1st-year apprentice, a lot of times you do things like work in the shop, and you also bring out material to other job sites. So you need to have a valid driver's license and good insurance to be able to drive around and drop that kind of material off. The how to apply step 2, you need to bring in a completed application. So if you go back, if you click out of this PDF, Kevin will show you in a minute, it will actually be the PDF for the application. You can print that from home or school. You can fill it out. You have to have that filled out when you drop off the actual physical application. Kevin's bringing it up right now. So this right here gives you, stay on this page real quick, Kevin.
Okay, yep.
Right here, it gives you what you need. So you needed a completed application. You need a copy of your driver's license, a copy of your birth certificate. You need to, so for your proof of age, we also need a copy of your high school diploma. And we also need your original high school transcripts. So this has to be sealed. If it's open, we cannot accept them. So please, whatever you have to do to get your transcripts, make sure they're sealed. You can bring them with you. You can also mail them here, but they have to be here before you drop your application off. If you've been in the military, we need your discharge form, your DD 214, and we need the $25 application fee. That needs to be cash, check, or money order. Go ahead and scroll down, Kevin. And this is just your cover page for your application. So we need your social security up on top. First, last name, address, pretty simple stuff. And then we need a little demographic information. And then just, you know, if you have a valid operator driver's license, we like to know how you heard about us. And we also want to get your work history on here. And that's just our cover page, pretty simple. And then this is just kind of a given what part of this you need to fill out below. So if you scroll down, everything that's in highlight is what you'll need to fill out.
So this is your application for the plumbing license?
Yes.
Okay. So there's personal background check, just basic information, and then addendum.
Now, this is if you need, if you do have a little bit of a record, you have to bring your court documents, things like that, everything that explained what happened with whatever your court case is. So when you fill out the application, if you do have that, you have to get all your court documents, get in touch with a lawyer or your attorney, whoever was working your case, and get that information for them.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the other screen.
Also, while I'm thinking about it too, Kevin, the other important thing about that as well with the background, if you do have some certain types of records on your background, and this applies to other trades as well, can prohibit you from working on certain jobs. You know, if we're doing a summer shutdown in a high school, things like that, they do background checks. If you have something on your background, they will not allow you to work on those jobs. So it is important to make sure that your record is clean, or at least, if anything, make sure you're transparent about it. Oh, and if you want to scroll up real quick too, on that second page.
Yeah, this one?
Yeah. So did we get everything done on step 2? I'm sorry, Kevin.
I'll scroll back up.
Okay, yeah, and it was basically what I had said before, your high school
Yeah.
transcripts, things like that. So that's good. If we scroll down, we do interview times. Like I said, once you get done with the application, I'll reach out to the individuals that filled out the application. I will notify them when their interview date and time is going to be in March. You also, with us, we are tied in with BCRC. So if you get accepted into the program, before you fill out your paperwork, you are going to then have to do a drug screen. You have to pass you get randomly selected also while you're going through the program and as a journey person to make sure that, you know, you have a clean drug background on that. Terms of the apprenticeship, like I was saying before, first year students attend school every Monday for a normal school year. Student works in the field Tuesday through Friday with overtime as work is available. Second through fifth year individuals, they go to school Monday and Wednesday evenings, and they work Monday through Friday. 80% grade point average for each student, and you have to have a total of 8,500 on-job training hours. Like I was saying, you have to have 1,700 working hours every year to advance to the next stage in your apprenticeship. You need to have a total of 8,500 to finish and top out. And that's just my information right there. And here is the calendar for the dates that we're going to be accepting applications this month. So that'll be starting next week on the 12th. And that will be from 9 a.m. to 12 that week. The 19th through the 22nd will be 1 through 4 p.m. And then the 26th through the 29th will be from 4 to 7.
Perfect. That's great information, Bill. I also wanted to let the participants know that if students need to brush up on their math, I got a message here from the Center of Workforce Innovations. They have actually adult learning centers throughout the region where they'll allow you to brush up your math skills. So you could visit cwicorp.com and get information on how to attend those adult learning centers. So I know we're running out of time. Real quick, I just wanted to bring attention to a website that not only encompasses the plumbers, but all of the trades, and it's called webuildnwi.com. So if you click under the trade careers here, there's 20 different trades that you can apply for. And here's the plumbers tab. So if you go to the plumbers tab and you click down here below, I also have the application schedule on there for 2021. It talks about the application period, and there's a link to the website too. So you could go there and find the website as well, and it has a little more information about the plumbers. So Bill, I want to thank you once again for sharing all that information. It's been extremely helpful. I actually learned a few things today about your program. So thanks for sharing that information.
That's my pleasure.
Real quick, are there any other questions from our participants? I'll give you a couple seconds to chime in. Yeah, I got one right here. I got a closing screen. And yeah, here's for more information. Here's the web address, and there's also a phone number, and there's also the We Build Northwest Indiana web link. So try to screenshot that or write that information down. I'll leave it up here for a second. And if you have information, need to brush up on your math skills or anything, here's the phone number for the Center of Workforce Innovations. So you could call that number and find out where a local adult learning center is too. I'm seeing that you can't see that screen. Let me try to reshare. You guys see that now?
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, so please take down that information. And I think that is all we have today. I don't see any more questions coming in. So once again, Bill, I'd like to thank you. Thanks for our participants for joining in. If you do have any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat, and we'll make sure to answer those questions and get it back to you. So we got a recording of all the chat questions, and we will be able to answer them for you. And that's all we have today. So thanks again.